Hello, my friends. So today I'd like to speak about wounding. It's a term that is used quite a bit in this work that I do and in the work that anyone does when they're working with people around helping them to function more fully in their lives, to be able to navigate their lives with more grace, more ease in their full abilities. And so I wanted to speak about that today. I live here in Sedona, right on the edge of the wilderness. My back patio just spills right out into the wilderness. So I'm sitting here right now looking out at the red rocks and my bird feeders and the land. Pretty much on a regular basis, javelina come through. Javelina are these kind of pig-like creatures. They're not really pigs, but they're like almost like a wild boar, but they're not quite that either. But they have that look to them. They got snouts and they root around in the dirt, and so they're very pig-like. And they come through all the time, and usually family units. In fact, today one came through that had a little newborn baby. I mean, it was literally like the size of a baked potato, a little baked potato with legs, little tiny legs. So I get to enjoy those and experience those on a regular basis. Recently, there's been one of the javelina coming through that has a wounded back leg. So it's holding its back leg up. It can't put any weight on it. And so it's gimping around. It's not moving at its full ability. So let's talk a little bit about wounds, because it got me thinking, just looking and going, interesting. Because of a wound, it's not able to operate at its full capacity. And I've got a lot of bird life out here as well. And about a month ago, there was a bird out here acting really strangely. It turned out it had a wounded wing, and it was not able to function at its full capacity. It was wounded. Every human being experiences some dynamic of emotional wounding. One of the classic wounds is you can think of a wound as a hurt. It's a way that we were hurt, and it created a wound, an emotional wound, that limits our ability to function freely, to fully function at our full capacity to love, our full capacity to open our hearts, our full capacity to take risks. We might have a wound around being taught or coming to believe that we will not be loved or accepted if we are anything less than perfect, if we mess up in any way, if we are inadequate in any way. That's a big wound for a lot of men. If I'm inadequate in any way, I will be shamed, I will be embarrassed, I will be shunned. Love will be withdrawn. So these are wounds that we experience usually when we're young, although they can happen at any time. Trauma wounds certainly can happen at any time. But we can't see them. They're not physical, like the javelina with its bad back leg. That's an obvious physical wound. Our emotional wounds are a lot harder to see. We can start to recognize them when we start to look at our behaviors, at our coping mechanisms, at the ways we try to compensate for this feeling of maybe not enoughness. We can start to see why, I don't take really risks. Why is that? Why is that? Why am I so afraid of taking risks? And if we trace it back, we can start to find, I was taught at some point by parents, by siblings, by school, community, society, media. I was taught that I need to be perfect in order to be loved or worthy. That's a wound. We are emotionally wounded, and it creates, we're kind of gimping along often through life, or certainly in relationships, because of wounds that we can't even see. And today I wanted to speak specifically about the core universal wound. It's a wound that pretty much all humans experience at some level, and especially in cultures where we have lost a lot of spiritual connection, and we're kind of living in a world of material reductionism. We have reduced the world to the material realm, where our sense of happiness, success, connection is based on form, is based on things, rather than being more fully connected to the world through the open heart of love, and through the wonder, and through deep, intimate connection with life, with nature, with others, and with self. So for a lot of cultures that are especially ensconced in the material reductionism, this wound I'm about to speak to is especially prevalent. But it is a core general wound for most any human being that is born into this form of body, mind, and ego story. And when we get wrapped up in the ego story, when we start to believe that the story we have created about ourselves, which is often called the illusion of self or the false self, when we are completely identified with that, we are disconnected. We are cut off from a connection with our divinity, our truth, our wholeness, our alive spiritual nature, the soul source dynamic of being a human spiritual being. It is severed. That knowing of our truth, our wholeness, our imperishable love that we are, because that is ultimately what we are when we answer the question, who am I really? I'm not just a personal self that will end someday. And I'm not even just the eternal soul that is inhabiting this personal self for a time, but as well, we all are the one source, the one love that individuates through a soul expression and then inhabits a personal vehicle for a time. That wound of being severed from, disconnected from our essential nature, our wholeness, our divine beauty, the love that we are, is a wound. And like any wound, that wound, until it is healed, causes us to live in this life in a limited way. Just like that javelina. It was walking in a limited way. It couldn't run at full speed if it needed to, because it had a wound, a physical wound. But this spiritual wound of being disconnected from our truth equally creates the condition that we are not living in our full capacity. We're not living in our whole dimensionality. We're not living in the wholeness of ourselves. We are typically living in the story, the egoic, wounded story of who we are. And it's important to recognize, to know that this wound exists, because it's not physical, because it is emotional and spiritual. We can't necessarily see it. And we've been so used to compensating for it that we don't even know we have a limp. We don't even know that we're not operating at full capacity. But we start to get a sense as we move through life that we're not, and something must be wrong. But instead of looking and recognizing that it's because of wounding, we take it personally. Oh, it's because I'm a bad person. It's because I'm an inadequate person. No, it's just that we all have wounding. So it's important to know what that wounding is so that we can address it. I've never thought about that before, like a dressing. You put a dressing on a wound. So we're addressing this spiritual wound. How do we do that? How do we address this wound of being disconnected, severed from our truth, our beauty, our freedom, the true free self that we always have been, actually always are, that we are? We're disconnected from that free, unabashed, beautiful, open-hearted, vulnerable, loving self. The wholeness of our being, the true loving consciousness that we are. How do we address that disconnection? And I want to offer that addressing that is to know that it exists and to begin to have the conversations in our lives, the honest conversations of self-inquiry, the meditative inquiries of who am I really? Am I this story? Am I my doubts, my fears, my uncertainties, my coping mechanisms? Is that really who I am? Or is that just the physical and emotional manifestation of this core wound of being disconnected from my truth? Because I can tell you, my friends, that if we are rested in the wholeness of our true nature, if that wound is healed, if we are reconnected with our wholeness, the soul and the source aspect of ourselves, I can promise you, we live with more grace. We live with more courage. We live with more confidence. We live with more love, with more peace. So addressing this is a combination of a number of things, but one of them is to explore this reality of who we are through the exploration of any practice or any offering, any teaching that speaks to our wholeness, our consciousness, higher consciousness, expanded consciousness. That's what that means. To expand our consciousness is to expand our awareness so that the consciousness that we are becomes aware of itself, which I know early in the work can sound a little bit convoluted, but that's what's happening. So I invite you to study. I invite you to find whomever, a teacher, a group, a study, a number of teachers. That's how I typically did it, is I found a number of different teachers who were teaching. Who are you really? Rupert Spira, Adyashanti, Gangaji, Muji, a number of them. And it's now the work, the teaching that I do, because the wound has been largely healed. That reconnection with divinity, that reconnection with the absolute divine truth of being has been made. That has been made through study, meditation, contemplation, self-inquiry, dialogue, more study, more study, more exploration, more contemplation, more sitting in meditation with these teachings, with this question, who am I really? What did one of my teachers say in that lesson that I was listening to, and how can I apply that and feel into that and bring my awareness intentionally and devotion to this question? Am I just this mind, body, ego experience? Is there more than that? How do I know that? How do I find that, come to rest in that? And to have deep, deep patience for this journey, for this knowing, for this awakening, to arise, to reveal what we already are. So wounding. This core wound is universal. Pretty much every human that grows up into an adult has an ego identity. And that ego identity is the dominant identity. And it veils the truth of who we are. That veil is a wound. It's keeping us from having access to all parts of ourselves. Just like the javelina did not have access to its back leg. And so it wasn't moving in its full ability, in its full grace. If we want to really live in our full capacity, in our wholeness of being, in our full grace, our full power, our full peace, our full capacity to love, then we want to reconnect to the parts of ourselves that we have been severed from. And that is the consciousness, the awakened consciousness of love. So I want to invite, if you're interested in this, if this is at all something that you hear this and you think, yeah, there's more. There's more. There's more conversations that I want to be having, and more studies and more understanding and more direct experience that I want to have of my full capacity, my full potentiality in this human spiritual experience. Then I invite you to download. I've got a free guide on my website. I'll leave the link below. I've got a free guide. It's the 6 foundations to peace and freedom. And it just walks you through and gives you a little assessment guide. You can kind of assess where you are for each of these 6 foundations. And it takes you through the different foundations of patience, which is critical, study, practice, devotion, allowing. It takes you through these beautiful core foundations that without them, truly, it makes this journey of self-knowing, of knowing our full dimensionality, our full truth. It makes it much easier when we are aligned with creating a life that supports this devotional study and exploration of our truth, of who we are, truly, beyond the human experience, beyond the body, mind, ego experience. Who are we? Because this is all going to end someday. And there's a consciousness that moves through us. So much to learn, so much to explore. The other thing I'll offer in this is that on my website, you'll also see an invitation to join a membership that I have. It's an online community and mentorship that is really based around this type of conversation and exploration and study. And it's called The Oasis, Nourishment for Your Soul. And I invite you to check that out. I open it up about 4 times a year for about a week to bring in new members into the community. So if you go and you look at the Oasis and it's intriguing, but it's currently closed, you just sign up and you'll be notified when it opens up again. And so you'll get that notification and you'll know that you'll have some time to join us in the Oasis. But meanwhile, the guide, 6 Foundations to Peace and Freedom, that's free. It's available for you today, and I'll leave the link to that down below. All right, my friends, be well, and may we all just heal all the different aspects of our emotional and spiritual wounding so that we can learn to more fully love and play and explore and create unabashedly, fully. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Good to be with you today. Blessings. If you like that video, please subscribe to my channel. That way you'll get notified when I post new videos. As well, you can click that like button down below, and that'll make this video more available to more people. And also visit me at my website, chessedwards.com, and I've got a link to that down below in the description. Thank you much. I'll see you soon.